Otakuology Podcast with Otaku Mike Engine Graves.
Hey guys, what is up? Mike here, back for the Otakuology Podcast. We're back again recording because we missed last week because we were both doing shit. I'm your host, Otaku Mike. With me, as always, he loves eating wieners, Jin Graves. How's it going, sir?
Hey man, I fucking love Chicago dogs. So yeah, I definitely love eating those wieners.
So
So
what's up? How's it going?
nothing much, doing pretty good.
What have you been up
Trying
to?
to too much to to even say on the podcast.
Too much to even say on the podcast. What?
Yeah,
Have you read anything? Watched anything?
I did. I finally finished Machi Meho Volume 5 and started Lucifer. For anybody that's watched that, uh, that's really about it. I mean, everything else is just trying to tie up lines or whatever of what I've already started or
So, are you
people already know
going
about.
to read the Lucifer comic book?
I assume I'm gonna have to read it if you are forcing me to.
I'm just asking because it's like a pinnacle of like comic book reading. Like if you're really into comic books and you want um to read what it's like based on,
Yeah,
because it's kind of different.
right. I'll just have to throw it on my stack with everything else that I got to read for
I
you.
mean, don't really have a stack because you don't read.
It's so true.
Just
So
saying.
true. So no, I've been doing that and some art pieces and some other stuff like that. So not
Oh,
a
you've been
lot.
finger painting,
I have been finger painting and spray painting. So
spray painting. Are you huffing those cans?
definitely not.
Oh,
I don't know what they put in those cans and stuff, but it is like it's killing me.
it is.
Yeah, oh man, I can't stand the smell of that stuff. So I'm glad I'm doing it all outside.
Oh,
Because if I
really?
had to be in, yeah, if I had to be in the same room with that shit, I'd probably be so lightheaded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
So
Sounds like you're living a fun-filled life.
I try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So that's what you've been doing this week.
Basically.
Yeah, painting.
Basically, that's what I've been doing this week and trying to just catch up and get back in the mood for reading manga and stuff again.
You been in a slump?
Yes, I've
How
been
long? How long has your slump been? Because I've kind of been in a little manga slump recently.
probably about 18 volumes, let's say that, because
Okay,
I've been basically in a doctor slump.
okay.
So,
Because I've been reading more comic books recently, and
right.
not just because for the podcast, but I have been reading more and more comic books.
Well, I mean, that's just what you got to think about it is
Yeah.
you're reading it and doing it all for yourself, but it'll end up on the podcast eventually. So,
Probably eventually I'll probably force you to read it. I mean, eventually you will have to read volume 1 of Umbrella Academy at some point, right? Because I bought it for you for Christmas and I believe it's still in the shrink wrap.
right. No, I've opened it. I've
Really
I've looked through it. I just haven't read it.
disappointed in you.
Because my favorite scene so far in there is where you have like the kind of it's like the fight scene and you have um oh my god, I'm not gonna remember number one's name. Luther.
Luther?
You have Luther standing there with the ape body and he's like pointing out like, hey, we need to go attack these people over here. I think that is probably one of my favorite little art pieces in there. And it's
Uh-huh.
almost like a double spread scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't read it yet, like I said, but just from perusing through it, I think that's probably my favorite like little art print in it,
Oh
I
yeah.
would almost say. So
So you gonna ask me how my week's been? Or are we just gonna talk about you?
Oh yeah, it's like the podcast. It's all about me.
Because I feel like sometimes this podcast is one sided sometimes, and I have to get a conversation out of you.
I, I just kind of feel like I want you to fangirl over me.
I'm not gonna fucking fangirl over you. I just want to have a good conversation. That's all.
I just need a fangirl, Mike.
Well, I'm a guy.
That's fine. Guys can fangirl.
I'm not gonna fangirl over you. No. I don't swing that way.
You could
Uh,
fanboy.
no. Although we do need to. Have you seen that movie, Fanboys?
No.
There's a movie. It's about these guys who go to steal Episode 1 of Star Wars from George Lucas. They put
I
it
think
for
we talked about this before.
yeah, they put it for free up on Netflix. You can watch it for free. We should watch it for the podcast.
Bam. Let's throw it on our pile.
I think it should be our next movie review.
Especially this coming weekend. Let's hammer out like 50 of those.
50 of them? I don't know if I can do 50.
50
I'm behind. I gotta record an Invincible podcast.
This is true.
I am behind because I've been busy. Like I've actually been really busy.
This is true. Well, so just thinking about it and talking about it and all that stuff, I actually did the other day when I went to Barnes and Noble peruse through the comic aisle because they moved it again.
Yeah.
And there was one, I have to remember the name of it, or I'll have to go back and look at it. And it did kind of intrigue me enough that I was going to ask you if you wanted to read it, but
what was it?
I can't remember.
Well, what did it look like?
There was like almost kind of like a Batman character on the cover, but it wasn't Batman.
That does not help whatsoever.
Right? So,
Who publishes it?
It was one word.
One word?
Yeah, it was a one-word title. I can't remember what it is.
Who publishes it?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
I have no idea. I mean,
What
I assume it's probably got to be like Dark Horse, just because you're not going to have very many things that are almost indie or just out there from other people.
No, that's actually not true. Like my Barnes and Noble has had quite a bit of indie selection. It's usually stuff that's like based on like TV properties, but like mine's had a pretty good selection of indie titles, which I'm actually very surprised because I hate to say it, but the comic book selection at Barnes and Noble keeps shrinking.
That's true. It's like the manga selection at Barnes and Noble. It keeps shrinking too.
No, I think the manga section it keeps growing.
I don't know. I honestly could feel like probably our like game book section, like D&D and stuff, and comics and manga. I feel like that is all starting to shrink heavily at my store.
Anyways, let's get back to me and what I've been doing because it's all about me. Just saying. Since you kindly asked what I've been doing.
I did.
Well.
Oh wait, hold on. One
hold
more
on.
second. So I do remember one more thing about the comic. It was written by, I think it was picked up at different times by people, this one character, but it had 3 different authors on it that had picked it up at different times, and it was like a collection of their works.
Well, that doesn't help.
For this one. I mean, every little bit.
Maybe you should go back and take a picture of it.
I will. Because now at this conversation, I'm going to have to. Because
I love reading weird comic books.
This is true. This is true.
I think I need you to pick up Battle Pug so we can read Battle Pug.
Oh my god. Well, I'll read Battle Pug if you get Kathleen on the podcast.
So, Kathleen's not going to come on the podcast.
She'll come on the podcast for Battle Pug.
I don't know about that. Man, you gotta buy like a $30 book. It's a big boy.
Oh my god.
It's like a $25 to $30 book. It's a big book.
It's a possibility then.
Whenever I read it, I have to lay it flat on a table because it's so long. Anyways, back to me and what I've been doing. So, I've been on my hunt for the Invincible Ultimate collections. I found more of them. Yes, I found volumes 5, 6, and 7. I am currently waiting on volume 6 to show up. Uh, when we get into our podcast today, it's actually kind of relevant. But I did finish a Gundam model. I put it all over our Instagrams and the Tickety Talk. I finished the Gundam The Origins Gundam. Master Grade, of course. Uh, I think
Let
you would
me
actually
let me let
really
me
like that
ask
one.
you. So when you did this Gundam and you put
Uh-huh.
it on TikTok, did you put like a music sound to it?
I did, but I couldn't use like any licensed music.
Okay.
Why?
I just had to know. I like to think about sometimes if I post pictures of models or whatever, what their theme song would be if they were like jumping up.
Well, because we have like a business account, we can't use licensed music, I think.
Right.
So I had to go like some generic rock song. I think I might go back and do like a small little review on the TikTok. But I did finally bust out my little display stand and made it rotate with the Gundam on it.
Oh my God, you know what you should put as the thing for it for one of your models one time when you put it up?
What?
The if I came to our date dressed like this, what would
Oh.
you do? What would you do?
But yeah, the Gundam The Origin Master Grade is actually a really good kit.
And it was the N2, right?
It was the no, it was the RX 7802.
Yeah, okay.
It's just the Gundam, the one from the manga Gundam Origins.
Yeah.
But it actually, I'm looking at it right now. It has really good like color separation and stuff, and the nub marks weren't visible at all. Like I got rid of a lot of nub marks, and I did find out a little trick though. Since the inner frame is like gray, I did use my gray panel liner pin to go over any nub marks that I actually like nicked it and stuff.
Yeah,
So with like the weapons, I would nick it sometimes and I'd be like, color it and like it would blend in and I would fix it.
that's hilarious.
I need like a color of the rainbow to see if I can get other shades because I was like, man, this kind of hides nub marks really good because I'm working on my nub mark, like my nub removal techniques. Because you know how I hate my nub marks. I hate them. I hate it. I hate it when I nick them. I did get a new X-Acto knife set, so I've been working with the flat blade to remove a lot of like the spurs and stuff. Because I found out if you use like a flat blade, you can like chop it off, and then you use a knife to like get it off or get the residue off or whatever. That works quite well. But it comes with a lot of really cool stuff. Like it came with like effect parts where like you can like look like it's shooting like a missile out of its like chest or whatever, or like machine gun effect parts. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. Somebody's internet dropped out. What were we talking about? We were talking about building a Gundam. Oh yes. Um, so I think you would actually really like the Master Grade RX 78. I know you're not big on the Master Grades, but I think you would actually enjoy this one. It was a lot of fun. Uh,
Right. I mean, I just feel like nothing will ever compare to the tall geese. So
I mean, I think once you get into more Master Grades, because the Wing Gundams are actually a little smaller in scale than an actual Master Grade. Their proportions are smaller. So, like with the Universal Century stuff, they're more chunkier and they have bigger pieces. So they're bigger than the Wing Gundams. Except when you get into the F-91 stuff, those guys are like it's almost the size of like a high grade. But that one's actually a pretty good kit too. But anyways, yeah, I think you would like it. The color separation's really good. You get some really cool accessories and some like effect parts that are really cool. And the mobility is really good. The only downside is they come with those hands that have like joints in them. I don't know if you ever seen those ones.
Yeah.
They come with those, so that's they like to pop off when you're trying to move them around. So that's the only downside with that one. I did start reading the Go Ranger manga, the Go Ranger, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I think you know that Super Sentai one that came out.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I think actually you would like it. It was made by the creator of Cyborg 009. So I know you like Cyborg 009, right?
That's true. You do know me too well.
Yeah. And the art style is just like that. It's pretty good so far. It's about the size of a like a 20th Century Boys Perfect Edition type size.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. I did start reading that, and then I read a bunch of Invincible. But we won't get into the Invincible stuff right now because it's not the Invincible cast at the moment.
Right. So let me throw this out there for all of our listeners. So, are you going to do an Invincible cast over the TV show as well, besides the
I
comic?
think maybe we can do one together. Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yes and no. So my brother just gave me his login information for that. So I kind of have it, but I have to double check and see if he loaned it out to anybody else again.
If you want, we can do it. If you're able to get a hold of an Amazon account, we can do it together. Yeah. It's only 8 episodes.
Because I mean, the other reason he wants me to watch it though is to watch the new Mortal Kombat that came out.
Oh, we can do that. We can talk about it. That's actually on HBO. It's not on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's completely different. Yeah. But yeah, I might do it. We'll see. It depends because I'm really like knee deep in the show and in the comic right now. So we'll have to see if you do it, if you watch it, I will. We can talk about it and stuff.
Yeah.
And do like a featured flicks on each episode, or we can talk about the season as a whole. So I think there's only like 8 episodes a season, and that covers like the first 13 issues, give or take, of the book.
Right.
So it's not that long, not much of a time sink, but each episode's like over almost an hour long. But they're actually pretty good. I like the show. It's pretty fun. It has a big cast of actors in it, famous actors actually. Seth Rogen's in it actually, which is pretty funny.
Oh my gosh.
He executive produced the show.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I just had somebody at work last week tell me that they were like, "Yeah, you kind of look like him. You know, y'all related."
No, you did. No, you don't. No, you don't.
I wanted to sit there and do the whole. Do all fat guys look the same?
But Seth Rogen's not fat.
Some people think that way.
He's like a little chunky, but he's not like fat.
So
you do not look like fucking Seth Rogen.
Hey,
whoever said that. Whoever said that needs to get their fucking eyes checked. I mean, really? No. No. You do not look like Seth Rogen.
Who knows?
I mean, I've had people tell me I look like Jack Black before.
Well, those people need to get their eyes checked.
Whenever like my hair is grown out, and like if people have said I look like Jack Black a lot when I was younger, in my 20s actually. People would say that, but without further ado, let's just get into this conversation. We are talking about the value of manga, collecting manga, why manga has been harder to find, kind of topical discussion, because we've been hearing a lot of chatter around the interwebs that there are a lot of videos going up about the value of manga. Should you invest in manga? Stuff like that. You've seen those videos, right?
Right.
So we thought we would give our own spin on it. We're not trying to ride the hype train on this, but I do feel like we could give our honest opinions on it.
Definitely not, because if there was a hype train on this, you know who would be the conductor? Not
you.
No, it'd be you, because I'd be too caught up shoveling coal and stuff to make it go faster. Because I'm a speed demon when it comes to shit like that.
I mean, I don't know if I would make a video on this, but I don't have a problem talking about it.
I'll go anywhere with you, Captain. Toot toot.
So that's so gay.
Whatever.
That's so gay.
Whatever. You laughed at it.
So fucking stupid. Get on my fucking little tugboat. Put on my steamboat Willie hat.
Toot toot.
That was so fucking stupid.
Watch. Somebody in the future is gonna send you a message or something and go toot toot, and you'll know exactly what it means because of this episode.
But yeah, we thought we would talk about collecting manga again, obviously, because we collect manga.
Right.
Although we kind of had this conversation before, when I was driving home from work, I think, and I called you or something like that, and you were talking about how you were looking to sell some of your manga, and you wanted to sell Ultimate Muscle, I believe it was, and you were like, "Man, I'm trying to sell it, and I don't know what to sell it for, or what I think it's worth." I know you talked about how you wanted to get what you put into it. That's one thing where I think we should start out with. One thing I feel like where people always fail when trying to resell manga is trying to get what they put into it. Because honestly, a lot of times you're not going to get that.
Right.
Sometimes. But I feel like if you're not willing to adjust and if you really want to truly get rid of it, you'll be willing to haggle.
Right.
In my opinion.
This
Are you agreeing with this or what?
To haggle?
Yeah. When it comes to pricing your stuff,
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely.
You want to elaborate on that?
Definitely. I feel like everybody has kind of that golden goal of what they want. And I know that most people will put out there that they're like, oh, I can't go any lower than that. Well, most of the time people will go lower than that.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't already taken your original price and basically added either another quarter of what the original value is that you put it at or anything, then you're just kind of stupid because you're not going to get it.
You were talking about like 15,000 was your estimated worth of this manga series, I think it was.
Yes. When I was looking at it, it was like 15K, and I was like, why would I sell this for that much?
Do you feel like your estimate that you came up with was wrong at any point?
Of that one?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, that one's way too high. I would never put something up there. Because that's going to be one of those 1 in a million, you're going to get that customer, and basically it's like the devil knocking on your door saying, hey, can I have your soul? That's kind of what that one's going to be.
Let's put it out there. Older manga is valuable to some extent. Because you can't get it anymore, obviously. Some are rarer than others. And you either know that or you don't. Because a lot of times, a lot of the earlier volumes of a manga will be easier to find than, let's say, volume 20 of a series or something like that. Because usually they start to shorten the print run.
Right.
The further they go. So a lot of the times, a lot of the volumes will be harder to get. So, I mean, that's you can factor that in. But do you feel like, I mean, I don't necessarily feel like people are clamoring to get like an Ultimate Muscle, honestly. Because
Yeah,
when you
that
said that, when you said you gave me that estimation for that price for 15K, I went online, and what I usually do when I evaluate how I'm going to sell manga or price manga, I'll go and look at what sold on like eBay,
right.
and I put it at as it would possibly be like a $500 to $600 value for the incomplete set, because that's what sold actually recently, last month. Somebody sold it for like 540, the complete set.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't,
last month it was sold, and I believe a couple of days before that it was sold for around like 500 as well.
because I saw the first 10 being sold for about
Yeah,
500.
but you also got to factor in, are people trying to scalp this shit?
It's true too.
You know, because we have, I hate to say it, but we're living in a pandemic at the moment. Pandemic. And a lot of us are at home sitting here, and we have money to burn basically, and a lot of us want to buy manga and stuff like that, you know? So
It's true.
I feel like a lot of out of print manga are starting to go up in price.
Right.
Not because of the rarity, but because of people probably just can't get a hold of them at the moment.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Or do you rolling in when I'm pooping out?
I'm definitely not rolling in what you're pooping out,
Okay,
but I get
well,
what you're saying.
okay, well, uh, I mean,
I
you're welcome to disagree with me
no, no,
if
I
you,
get what you're saying.
yeah, but seeing like I've people saying they should invest in manga, I don't necessarily feel like people should be investing in manga.
No, I
When I
fully
see
disagree with that too.
when I see those things go up, should you invest in manga? Should you invest in this series? Should you invest in that series? Can you live off of or put your kids through college? You know what that fucking reminds me of? I don't know if you remember it, but it reminds me of the 90s,
With
and
with Beanie Babies.
no, with comic books.
Oh, okay.
With the comic book boom, comics were big. People were buying issue 1, 25 issues of said issue 1, thinking it's going to put their kids through college and stuff like that. But in reality, a lot of older issues, like from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, are rarer uh, because of things that happened in the past. A lot of 90s comics aren't worth a lot. Some are, but some aren't. If you get what I'm saying.
Right. Oh no, I mean I completely agree with that because in a sense, I mean if you think about that as your investment, especially
Yeah.
because you know I'm doing some investments, me and your wife, um, on knowing how the system works and whatnot. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of times when you do that investment, it's going to be for a quick turnaround because there's not going to be a lot of things that you're going to be able to sit there and put stuff in, and the stock's not either going to immediately turn
Yeah.
around on it or something like that.
Yeah,
So
what? Like, sorry, go ahead.
if in the 90s somebody had bought 25 set volumes of this volume 1, then you would have been able to turn around and immediately got some kind of gratification from it because other dumbass people would have bought that stuff from you.
Yeah, like we had this big boom in the 90s where people were buying them like hotcakes. Like there was a comic book store almost like in every town, probably.
Right.
You know, and people were thinking they're going to put their kids in through college. Where I feel like, now correct me if I'm wrong. Manga is big at the moment, but I don't feel like manga is going to get as big as, say, like comic books were in the 90s. I might be just I might be just like, speaking out my asshole. But
no, let me tell you this too, because this is something I found funny because it actually popped up for me the other day as a news story of the news actually talking about manga.
Oh, yeah?
Right? And so I feel like there's a lot of people out there on different social medias and stuff that they feel like maybe it's getting such a big boom because they're talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't find that true. I think what it is people are feeding into that belief system, thinking, hey, I'm getting this because of I've been working my ass off at YouTube or something else like that.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. It's because you have either articles being written by it or you have things popping up in the news or something like that. You are getting a boom, and
people are seeing this stuff, being like, "Oh, I should check out Akira," or I should check out Gigant, or I'm just looking at my shelf right now. I should check out Tales of Wedding Rings.
Yeah, and I mean, you're reaping the benefits of that stuff happening, but just as it is, I mean, there's going to be an influx at some point where part of those people are going to turn around and be like, "Oh, the pandemic's lift. I'm not going to read manga anymore."
Yeah, they say I've heard people say when people get into anime and manga that there's a specific like lifespan of when you're actually a fan, and it's around like 2 to 4 years for most people.
Right.
And then they just get out of the hobby. Some people, it's not like that, But as I was saying before, I feel like manga might be in a speculation boom right now with the prices that are being thrown around. But I don't feel like it's going to hit the fandom like comic books did over here.
Right.
Because we had that integration so early within our society as a whole. We were reading them in like the 30s, the 40s.
Right.
And manga has maybe been around here since mid 90s. I'm just throwing a date out there, like
early 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's hit like our zeitgeist, and it's not as gonna blow up like everybody feels. It hasn't been in our society.
Well, the other thing that I have to look at, and this is strong only because I have been collecting for 15 plus years or so, is you have these people, and I mean you've seen it too, because most of the stuff that people buy is the shonen stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the most printed stuff out there.
Well, that's the thing, is who's printing that?
Yeah.
So if you buy anything from Shonen Jump, you have to realize too, Shonen Jump, unless it's going to be put on their shit list, which you can almost kind of tell at now, because after a little while they'll drop it.
Yeah, or they'll lose the license.
Yeah, it'll lose the license. They'll only have like half the series printed or something like that. Kurohime was one of those. Zetchbell was one of those. I mean, things like that.
I don't think they even own Ultimate Muscle anymore.
No, I don't think so.
And they don't even own Shaman King.
But those ones you can actually see, you can tell or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you collected and you've done it longer than 5 years or so, then you can actually see it, because I think a lot of people do go in with that mindset saying, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a good thing." But you have to think about where your moneymaker ones are going to be at.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that with Shonen Jump, because if you buy more of it, they're just going to print more of it.
Yeah.
It's Shonen Jump. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So whenever people go, "Oh well, I found Chainsaw Man for $100,"
Well, I actually want to talk about that in a minute.
Don't do that. Just hold out on it, because honestly, Shonen Jump, Shoujo Beat, anything that Viz prints out is most likely, I would say 95% going to be reprinted and have multiple printings, and you will probably never know that it skipped a beat on when the printings happen.
Well, let's actually talk about that, like out of stock versus out of print. So now,
well, let me finish this real quick. So, what's one of the big ones that you and I know that it goes out fast?
Goes out fast, or
it goes out fast. Like, you can't find it. It usually goes out of stock really fast, and there are usually never any it's back in stock ever.
Okay. Well, for me, since I don't collect a lot of the Shonen Jump titles, for me, the ones that I'm having a problem finding at the moment are. It took me almost a year to find the rest of Neon Keys. That one was always out of stock.
Well, I don't mean by Shonen Jump. I mean by publishers.
No, I was Yen Press for Neon Keys. I could not find whatsoever. A lot of Yen Press stuff I have a hard time finding sometimes.
Right.
If I don't get it right off the bat, certain 7 Seas titles, a lot of their Ghost Ship titles are getting harder to find.
Right.
Now, I've heard, I'm not 100% for sure. Like, I've had a hard time finding Destiny Lovers that has been out of stock. I can't find it, or it's not listed. Like, I had a hard time finding Volume 3. I don't know if I'm really going to collect Parallel Paradise anymore. We'll see. But Parallel Paradise was kind of hard to find, or it's always been out of stock on Right Stuff. When I'm out of stock, I'm usually talking about Right Stuff. I sometimes buy manga on Amazon.
But I mean, I've heard the same thing from Amazon. People that buy stuff from Amazon. Books,
not Tales of Wedding Rings.
Books a Million.
Worlds in Harem has been tricky to find. Only because I'm just saying this. A friend of the podcast, Papa Weeb from Meet the Weeb Family on YouTube, he reached out to me and asked me, "Hey, do you want this extra volume?" I think it was like volume 8 of Worlds in Harem, and I was like, "No, I'm currently I'm caught up, on my Worlds in Harem, because that's when I usually try to snatch up when it first comes out." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding volume 2 and volume 4 of Worlds in Harem." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's weird that it's volume 2 and volume 4. That's so close to the beginning of the series." So I was like, "Oh, let me help you out with this. Let me try to help you out." And I think he found volume 2. And so I was looking for volume 4. Volume 4 is out of stock on Barnes & Noble. It was out of stock on Right Stuff. I don't even know if it was available on Amazon. On Thrift Books, it was not around. On eBay, it was going for over $100.
Right.
Now, I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
But going off of that train of thought, I mean, you just listed off a lot of manga that we know that this has happened to.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. If you're going to buy something like Ghost Ship or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and buy a Shonen Jump that is going to turn around and get reprinted instantly. And if you out there listening and you think, hey, there's a Shonen Jump title that I want, don't sit there and waste your money on it, because at some point it's going to get reprinted. And
probably in like an omnibus or something.
I mean, they're going to reprint that as its single volume for probably an entire year.
Yeah.
And because of people buying it so much, they're going to have multiple printings like that.
Now since we are in a pandemic, I feel people are buying more manga, and that's why manga has been harder to find. And that's why we get people going, "Oh man, I can't find I'm just going to use Chainsaw Man, because I keep seeing people having a hard time finding Chainsaw Man."
I keep seeing Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
And there's one other one. It basically fits the same criteria as both of those.
And I was like, yeah. So I was talking to him, like doing a little messagey thing, and I was like, "Look, this is what I found." and he was looking on like websites for like comic book stores as well. And he I don't know if I can't remember if he could find any or not. I found one, and it was like $20 for volume 4. It was just the lowest I could find volume 4 for, and it came from like Europe, I think it was.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh, I crossed my fingers. He's not going to get ripped off, because I hope he found it, and I hope he was able to get volume 4. Because I know he really likes that series at the moment. And when I can push one of my favorite shonen series, yes, it's a shonen, I'm going to help somebody and help them find said volume. Not for $100, because I've read that volume, and that volume doesn't have anything big really in the story, I believe. Maybe a little bit, but,
Right.
It's not like a be-all, end-all, I must read volume 4, but,
Right.
But, like, as I was saying, like, he's come up with the... I don't think he's wrong, but he's come up with the assumption that Seven Seas is a lot like Dark Horse when it comes to printing, and they do, like, one run, and then that's it for like, at the moment,
Right.
So I was getting to thinking. I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. I have heard that they've had some distribution issues throughout the pandemic, and their Ghost Ship stuff is distributed through Diamond, I believe. And so I don't know exactly what their print run is like, but I do know is I am starting to see a lot of Seven Seas titles get harder to grab a hold of.
Right.
Or people are pre-ordering it. I don't know if it's just because Seven Seas is becoming more popular, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I slept on... People are like, I can't believe I slept on this company. They're putting out all this really good stuff. Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie and say, when I started collecting manga, it was predominantly Seven Seas titles. It was Seven Seas and like Yen Press were what I was collecting. I don't really collect that much Viz stuff.
Right.
I collect maybe like 2 or 3 Viz titles, maybe 4, ongoing at the moment, that are ongoing. And I remember people used to make fun of me for collecting Seven Seas titles. People would be like, "Oh man, Seven Seas, that's just a titty manga company. That's just all that etchy titty monster girl shit," but yet people are around here looking for a Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, which is out of print, and that's published by Seven Seas. I think that was one of their earlier titles. But I don't feel like they should be... What was that?
What?
I heard a sound. What are you doing?
I don't know. I had to close my curtains real quick because it's freaking me out. But
that was a weird sound.
They're cloth, so I don't know if they have a sound to them. That's why I was like, "What sound?"
I heard like a weird sound. I don't know what it was.
It was La Chupacabra.
But I feel like maybe people are starting to notice Seven Seas more, so therefore they're getting harder to find. But I also don't know what their print run is like.
Right. Well, hopefully they'll increase the number of what they print out.
Yeah, I hope so, because I want more people to read them. And also it could be a factor. Worlds and Harem is or did get an anime. I don't know if it came out yet or not. So you're also dealing with
that too.
You're also dealing with a lot of people. More eyes are on this, so it's going to get harder to find. Like, I've been reading Mushoku Tensei, or Tyson, whatever you're going to call it, Jobless Reincarnation, ever since it came out.
Right.
I'm having a harder time finding those titles because an anime actually did just came out for that, and I think it's fairly popular because it's always out of stock on Right Stuff.
Yes, I have heard a lot of good things about that anime.
And like, we can also go back to Rising of the Shield Hero. That anime came out, and people thought that series was out of print because it was out of stock for so long. You know, do you remember that
Right.
when people were like, "Volume 3 is out of print. I can't get Volume 3." But then, like mysteriously,
Yes.
Volume 3 came back in print. You know, you get what I'm
Yes.
saying? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But I find it weird that people are grabbing these new manga and throwing them up on eBay for an exorbitant amount of money. You know, over $100 for a volume. You know, do you find what would you think of that?
Not something new. Fuck
Yeah,
that.
what do you think about that? People trying to do. I mean, we're always gonna have scalpers.
I'm
But
just telling you, if you hold off or whatever and you don't play into the scalper game, like you'll be a lot better off than that.
do
But that's
you
the thing is, a lot of people can't do that.
do you ever feel like manga? I'm gonna choose my words wisely here. Do you ever feel like MangaTube ever? Because MangaTube is fairly big. Um, do you ever feel like it boosts up prices on out of print manga sometimes, inadvertently because people are uh, word of mouth hearing about these titles nowadays?
I think that there's a lot of out of print manga that people have done
Yeah,
that they say stuff about, and they have the people trying to set prices on them so misconstrued that nobody knows what it is.
yeah. Because like we don't have like a manga pricing guide like we do with
No,
comic books, you know, or video
no,
games. Because I mean, like when you look at comics and video games, the prices are always fluctuating with those, you know.
yeah, and I mean we don't have a grade system for it either. You know,
Yeah,
that's the thing with it as well. I mean, maybe. Sorry, I just get my chair back. Maybe if we had things that were more like that, there would be more things. But that's the fact of
are
it.
you walking away from your microphone?
No, my microphone's right here. What are you talking about?
I can barely hear you.
Don't you bullshit me. You can hear me.
Continue with what you were saying. I could barely hear you.
I forgot what I was saying.
Manga pricing, out of print manga
Oh,
pricing.
yeah. So, you know, just like out of print stuff, yeah, I feel like sometimes different things
With
because
like the gradings and stuff like that. We don't have that with.
yeah, we don't have a grading system. So I mean, there's a lot of things that people aren't going to know or understand on that. Because that's another thing too, I feel like, and people don't take that into account, which I believe that they should,
Mm-hmm.
because people go, okay, well, I'm buying this series, and it might be a really well known. I mean,
Mhm.
let's take Ultimate Muscle.
No,
one more time.
let's take Helsing.
Helsing. Okay,
Yeah, we'll go
so
Helsing.
you know, and somebody could have some Helsing volumes or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I want those. But the same thing is that person most likely is going to turn around and be able to sell it to you for
Mhm.
about $5 cheaper than another person is going to sell the exact same thing in a perfect condition, because
Mhm.
we don't have a grading system. And
Yeah,
this other person over here maybe spilled hot sauce on it and coffee and all this other stuff.
yeah,
Cat peed on it. Who knows?
yeah,
But that's the thing of, because we don't have a grading system, we don't have prices of how things are. Most people can just kind of bullshit their way and say, "Oh, well, it's got shelfware, and it's
yeah,
got whatever." It's kind of, honestly, it's kind of a misleading thing,
yeah.
you know. And somebody goes, "Oh, well, it's dog-eared." Okay,
That's
well,
you know,
some people will do that, and that's why I feel like too. Even though you're sitting there, you're not getting to look at the full thing. Even if
Yeah.
somebody's giving you pictures of the outside
yeah,
could look perfect, and the inside be all ripped up.
yeah. Like I had Genshiken volumes where like the film or whatever on the outside of the manga was coming off. You know, like you know what I'm talking about? Like
Right.
the coating they put on it.
But
And
you paid the same amount for that, correct?
I
As-
paid I think like $20 or $30 for the entire series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, I got it, and I was like, oh, like I didn't see that in the pictures, and I was like, well, I only paid $20 or $30 for this series. It's not too bad of a loss because that series is the single issues are out of print for that. I could go and pay like the omnibus prices and get, and I guess drag that way, you know. So I wasn't like too mad about that, but I do see that series going up in price. I think because you're finding it out, you know.
Right.
But like you also got to like look at it like we have comic prices. Comic prices go up and down. Whenever there's a new movie that comes out, whatever specific comic for that movie or a character shows up in a specific movie, their first appearance is going to go up like crazy. You know, I'll take Invincible at the moment. Invincible issue 1 just sold for like an exorbitant amount of money, you know, and a lot of those first issues are harder to get than the rest of the series because the first half of that series was low print run. And a lot of people are now discovering Invincible, and a lot of people want Invincible, so people are trying to like scalp the hardcovers and the trade paperbacks and stuff like that, you know?
Right.
You know, it's just it's an interesting way to look at it. And I'm always curious as to manga is such a nicher than comic books, like I want to say. I'm always curious as to like why said series is jumping up, or let's say, you have multiple printings of a series. I've heard people say like Gone, the little dinosaur manga, in English it's hard to get, but you can read that manga in any language because it has no words, you know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking and looking at Gone because I was actually a series that I just sold that got printed multiple times in the US. So is that really a hard one to find?
Right.
You know? Like, or are just people wrong with saying something is hard to find or out of print, you know?
Yes.
Like, how do we know something is hard to find? Because, you know, people live in different sides of the United States. Sometimes it's easier to find manga verse on a different side of the US, you know? Or
Right.
like factor in like what if you have reprints? Does that devalue the old version of the manga since we now have a new reprint, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I remember people going on about Blade of the Immortal. The omnibuses were hard to find. And, well, Blade of the Immortal has been printed in floppies. It's been printed in Tankubon form. It's been printed in omnibus form. It's been printed in the new deluxe editions. You know?
Right.
How is that hard to find? Is it just hard to find in your particular format that you want it in? Or, you know, why is this getting hard to find? Or is it getting hard to find because, you know, it's because everybody wants it? You know, like
Right.
I've been wondering, like, oh, excuse me, sorry, I've been getting over a cold. Like we have the new deluxe editions for Hellsing, that is, but we also have the original version. Does that make the original version go down in price? Or let's say we have the old versions of Battle Angel Alita. We just got the deluxe editions, you know, a couple years ago.
Right.
Well, now they're releasing Tankubon versions of the original series. So if the deluxe edition is hard to get, which I don't think it is, does that devalue the original Tankubon series from Viz? When Viz released it, you know, you got to factor these things in.
Right.
Of reprints, you know, does that devalue the older series because this newer version is being printed?
Right. Or I mean, looking at it that way, you know, does it increase the value of the series because, you know, now that one kind of got a little less out of the side of the people and stuff. So
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, I would probably go for the new printing versus the old printing, you know?
right. Well, and I mean, to each their own. I mean, that is a thing that you have to factor into it as well. Like if there's like Dragon Ball Z, if there's a Viz Big like that, that's how I have mine is Viz
well, I
Bigs.
mean, the Viz Bigs, I know some Viz Bigs are kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
I know, like, the Rurouni Kenshin Viz Bigs, they're a little hard to find. You know, I don't I don't know of any other. I know that there are Dragon Ball Viz Bigs, you know.
Yeah, I have all those.
They don't. I don't know if those are necessarily in print,
Not anymore.
but like you also got to factor in like, what about those full color Dragon Ball Z versions that were put out? You know.
Right. I mean, you have those, or you
Yeah.
have the ones with the artwork spine where they're all connected together.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
The,
mean,
the
you know,
free the
there's
free in ones, you know.
yeah. I mean, well, I mean, the singles had it. You know,
Yeah.
there's like 54 volumes in each.
There's like multiple versions of Dragon Ball you can get a hold of, you know.
Right. So, I mean, how do you know what it is like that?
Yeah.
And especially because I think manga is kind of like the dumb cousin, I feel like, to light novels and regular
Yeah.
novels and comic books.
Yeah. The dumb cousin.
The dumb cousin. I couldn't say the other word.
Yeah.
But because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that they want to put certain things on it. They want to treat it like it's this, or they want to treat it like it's that. And the thing is like, you know, we're not going to say, oh, well, this is a first printing of this manga. Like, some people would do that and would tell you that, but a lot of people aren't going to care about that. It's manga.
Yeah.
It's not like a work of Shakespeare, the first printing, or anything else like that.
Yeah.
But when you don't put stipulations on stuff like that, like you don't put, you know, how are you going to do that? If you don't do that with comic books, how are you going to sit there and say, oh, well, this manga needs to be represented that way? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why do we have so much stuff that it doesn't make sense when it comes down to manga, and when people fluctuate the price on things like that?
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't make any sense, especially knowing your publishers and everybody else, when it comes down to you're kind of raising the price over something stupid.
Yeah, like it's interesting because like ever since we've had this like almost like a renaissance of reprints of like these classic titles. It's constantly kind of made me wonder: did the value hold for those old printings? You know,
right?
So we had multiple printings of Ranma. You know, I don't know if Ursa Yatsura was reprinted, but like Maison Ikoku just recently. One that people have been wanting and one that's finally going to get complete over here is Shaman King.
Right.
You know, like, what does that do to like those old versions? Are they just the price going down for them? Like, do you still hold them to like the prices that we had before?
You know, one thing that trips me up is whenever you have like 3-in-1s or omnibuses, and box sets come out almost the exact same time.
Yeah,
and it's like when you value the price of what it is, of are they the same or not? Most of the time, it doesn't transfer over.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to think about most of that stuff, unless it is a huge manga anyway, is not going to turn around and get an omnibus or a 3-in-1 or anything else out of it at that time. They're going to most likely wait until the series is done and then maybe put out a box set or an omnibus.
Or if it even gets a box set.
It's true.
You know, like one that I've been wanting for quite a while was Yu Yu Hakusho.
Right.
And that's just got that one printing of the single issues. Now it's probably been reprinted over the years, but that's never gotten an omnibus or a box set over here.
Right.
We've never gotten an updated collector's edition or something like that, you know?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like manga pricing and manga collecting is a little weird at the moment. You know?
Right.
And
yeah,
there's no set rules of saying this is what I should keep it at. This is what the value of said manga is. Unless you go off of like things that are sold, you know,
right.
We don't necessarily know always how rare something is.
Right.
We're just hearing it word of mouth from resellers or people within like the manga community.
Yeah. Which I mean, how crazy do you think it would be to have a company come out that and recently, or like in the near future, come out and do all the stuff like do grading and everything else,
Oh,
like
that would be
regular American comic books. Like how bad would that shake the manga communities on how they do their stuff?
So funny that you mentioned that, because a thing that's been I listened to the podcast, the Completely Necessary podcast,
Right.
and they do a lot of video game stuff and pop culture movies discussions. And one thing that they've been talking about quite a bit recently, there's this group called like Awada or something like that. They are big into like selling like sealed graded games.
Right.
And when I'm talking about like sealed, I'm talking about completely sealed, never opened. Different printed versions of said games, like Super Mario Brothers. Does it have a hang tab? Does it not have a hang tab? Is it Super Mario Bros on the left or is it on the right? What makes the left bro more expensive than the right bro? And it's just the printing aspect that does this. And they talk about this stuff. And one thing that they talked about was they were selling or auctioning off, I guess you could say, because it's an auction house, where all these people from the comic book world, the coins, and baseball world have jumped into video games and reselling video games.
Mm-hmm.
So the markets kind of went up on like sealed, like unopened titles and stuff like that, And they were talking about, it was Spider-Man on an Atari 5200. A lot of Atari, only a handful of Atari games are actually worth something. A lot of Atari games are not really worth anything because there was so many games that were put out by Atari. A lot of games. And this sealed Spider-Man went for like, I think it was like $5,000 to $7,000. And a couple weeks or a couple months later, other people were finding sealed Spider-Mans for the 5200, and they didn't sell anything like this first one did. They maybe got like $500-$600,
Right.
But people were putting Spider-Man at 5200 for like over $7,000, but they're not getting their money's worth. It's a 5200 game. Like, people are finding cases of these things that were sealed, and people were finding cases of like other games that were sealed, and from like factory, like new old stock or something like that, So like that's why I'm saying used video game sales for retro games fluctuate constantly,
Right.
Especially when you get into that sealed stuff and people dealing with all that stuff, that kind of inflates retro gaming like prices up even more because people are saying like, oh man, I can get this for retro games,
Right.
So which is like, man, if we got into some fucking, I mean, I don't understand the whole grading aspect. I know it's for like a preserved thing, but you can't, if you get it sealed in one of those those things, you can't read it, you can't play your game.
It's true.
So I'm like, you're only really doing that for like an investment thing.
It's true.
But you're kind of gambling when it comes to investments, especially with this new thing with grading video games.
It's definitely true.
If we did that for manga, I don't know if I would be collecting manga anymore. I think I would be like, I would throw my hands up and be like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing this.
Do you think you'd almost have to be like a drug dealer? You'd be like, I'm not getting into my own stuff.
Yeah,
like I'm not getting into the shit that I sell.
Yeah, so like, we have like the floppy comics that get, sealed and slabbed,
Right.
And with those, yes, there is speculation still now when it comes to new stuff as well that comes out. When it comes to like outrageous prices or whatnot. But with like a lot of those old comics that are valuable, those are valuable for a reason, because we had the Seduction of Innocence come out, which said, "Oh, comics are bad. Comics will turn your kids gay," stuff like that.
Right.
So a lot of those old comics were destroyed. So that's why they're hard to get because of what, they were all destroyed. So it's not like that's not like that with manga.
No,
We're not saying our
I was just thinking of that. Like somebody turns around with the podcast and goes, "Well, Otaku Mike told me that I should go find other people's collections and just light them on fire or whatever, so that Mike's the rarest."
yeah. I mean, I was thinking, like we have like those slabbed and those graded and stuff like that. Obviously, yes, those are an investment because those are harder to get, and with like Invincible, that's skyrocketed. Walking Dead skyrocketed with those and stuff like that.
Right. Which,
like,
let me throw this at you too. So we did have Tokyo Pop disappear for a while and reappear, and all that stuff basically like dropped in price like hard. You think nowadays?
I think some of those. No, I think prices are going up on Tokyo Pop stuff.
Well, now they are because it's newer stuff since they came back.
Yeah.
But do you think prices would drop if like Yen Press or Seven Seas or something, buddy, like that went under, and or would they fluctuate?
I think they would fluctuate because I'm going to be totally honest. Tokyo Pop put out a lot of shit. I'm just saying, that's my opinion. Tokyo Pop put out a lot of shit, and a lot of those when you go to find them, like I have only owned one Tokyo Pop series, and it is in perfect condition, and it is Welcome to the NHK. I have never seen a Tokyo Pop title out in the wild that is in perfect condition. It is always in shitty condition whenever I find a Tokyo Pop title.
That's true. That is definitely true.
It's like cracked spine, messed up cover in some way, messed up pages. I don't find a lot of wild Tokyo, but this is resale stuff. This isn't for like a store,
Right.
You also got to think, was that series finished? How popular was that series?
Right, and that's true too. So my 2 cents on that is, I also think that the reason why probably some of that stuff isn't worth that much is because, and why we find it in those conditions or whatever, is because people didn't have values on manga at that time like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, this is just some little comic book that came over from Japan, let's read it. Oh, I accidentally left it out in the rain. Oh, it's still readable. Let's just, whatever. Yeah. You give it to your cousin, or, somebody draws in it, with a pen or
I found it was a Full Metal Panic manga, and somebody took it and colored all the pages. Like, they colored in all the characters.
That's great.
And I kind of wanted to buy it, and I kind of shoot myself for not getting it.
I gotta go back and see if I can find it again.
Yeah, like I think about it. Whenever I'm picking up like graphic novels or trade paperbacks, there is an aftermarket for that as well. Some are more expensive than others, just like manga is, because they're not in print anymore. So like a lot of the times, I have to think the same thing when it comes to manga, because those prices fluctuate all the time as well. But I feel like those have a better reason to fluctuate because comics have been around longer than manga has over a year. So I put more value in a graphic novel or a trade paperback versus manga, in my opinion. Yeah. Because whenever I sell manga off, I'm just like, okay, it's somewhat more throwaway for me because I don't always see that value where I'm just like, it's just manga, I mean, I have a few like out of print titles that the prices have gone up recently, and I'm like, oh, should I sell these? Like, what should I do with these? Should I keep them? I don't know. I don't know if I would sell them for like the prices that they're going for at the moment. Like, I've had like Tuxedo Gin go up in price. I've seen it go up to almost $200 at some points. I remember buying that like a year or two ago, and I paid like I think like $60 for it. I'm like, why is this obscure penguin manga from Viz going for like this much money. You know, I don't hear anybody talking about it. You know,
right? I mean,
but I mean, I don't think it's like that hard to find. I don't think
right?
it would be that hard.
I mean, same thing. I mean, I feel like there's a handful of them, like you said, Tuxedo Again and Ultimate Muscle, Knights of the Zodiac.
Yeah, I've had like Midori Days gone up in price. Pretty Face that I own has gone up in price. Cross Game has gone up in price, and I don't know if that's out of print or not. The last one, Cross Game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just noticed on eBay for complete collections, when I search for complete collections, I'm like, oh, these are manga that I have that have gone up in price, you know. Or let's say the Akira soft covers. I don't know if those are out of print or not, you know, but I know we've had the reprints of that box, you know, that collector's edition, that reprint of Akira, which that makes me wonder, does that hold value that people thought it was going for? Remember how that Akira box that was going like for $400, $500, $600, you know, on eBay and stuff? But that's been getting reprinted. So does that devalue what you already have, you know?
Is it the solid wood box set?
It's not wood. It's like a chipboard box set.
What series am I thinking out that came out with like a good mahogany box?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it was Akira.
No, Akira's not wood. Akira's just like a chipboard like box you get for like an anime. Yeah.
I don't know. I want to say there was a limited run where it came out, and there was an Akira mahogany box.
That I'm not for sure. I don't know.
And it was going for like $500, not because of the manga, but because of the box. And I was like, why don't you just buy your own like mahogany box, make it, and then I mean what? All they really did was they got a symbol for it or whatever.
It would probably cost.
Burned it on the top of it.
You know, honestly, it would probably cost you $500 for the wood because wood prices are crazy right now.
That's true for right now, but I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if you went on to, I don't know, God forbid, Etsy or somewhere like that, and you met somebody that knew how to do that stuff, there's no telling they could regurgitate that box in no time and be like, "Hey,
I do feel
$500."
I do feel like manga prices might come down when it comes to out of print stuff.
Yeah,
and out of stock stuff once we get out of this pandemic.
Right. Which
I do feel that.
Do you think too that there's a teeter of the scales right after versus like years down the road, like 10 years or so?
Elaborate on that.
Like, you know, it might have done successful and well as it was coming out, and then when it gets done, the prices of it teeter real low, and then it turns around and goes high again.
Yeah, possibly with like word of mouth.
Okay,
I could see that.
Like, that's one of the things. Like, I feel like with my investment of what I actually put into Ultimate Muscle, I bought 3/4 of the series from Right Stuff for $5. $5 a book. Some of them were $3. I had maybe some of the random ass, oh, well, this is the first appearance of this character that everybody loves, or this is a scene where we waited for these two people to wrestle, or whatever. And those ones were what cost me a lot, because the most I paid for one was like $76.
You were buying Ultimate Muscle when it wasn't print, correct? Was not in print, correct?
It was after it was done coming out, and Right Stuff basically just had the old manga on their shelves, and we're waiting for people to buy it.
It was like on clearance.
Yes.
Okay. With Ultimate Muscle, it could be because it did go out of print, and those later volumes are harder to find. That's why it went up. You know, I don't think it necessarily had to do with the appearance of said character. I just think it probably has to do with said print, because you could look at it like, was Ultimate Muscle really that popular towards the end? you know?
Right.
Because I mean that is a pretty long series. That series, Ultimate Muscle, was somewhat popular over here in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, you know. But you also got to look at it. It had an anime. It had a couple of video games come out for it. Um, the anime was somewhat popular, not too popular. I would say it was somewhere in the middle, probably. I think we got maybe a couple of toys, muscle figures, those little rubber muscle figures, you know.
Right.
But with like the manga, we got to look at it. How well did it necessarily sell? You know, and were people clamoring for a sequel series to a manga that came out in the 80s? You know,
Right.
so like I don't for people giving those ridiculous prices for like the manga for like individual volumes. I think nostalgia might be attached to that, and like, is Ultimate Muscle like truly that hard to find, or is people just aren't getting rid of it? You know,
Right.
and you know, like, why are these prices so like astronomical for like a volume or whatever? I would expect Volume 1 to be easy to find because it was a Volume 1, you know, and it doesn't go for like I think it was going for like 40-50 bucks online.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's another thing that honestly could be another podcast episode is, you know, looking at just volume ones.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I find the same thing, but I also don't think that a lot of people are going to sit there and put out.
Or people just throwing this big number because it's out of print.
Right. But I mean,
you throw that label out of print on a manga, and obviously it's got to be worth something, correct?
That's true.
Right?
It's true.
Maybe? I don't know.
No, I mean it's true. But like that's what I'm saying is, you know, like whenever a series doesn't have any kind of notoriety or anything like that,
yeah.
I don't understand why there's so much investment.
I mean, like Shaman King came out around the exact same time Ultimate Muscle did. Like the anime came out, the manga came out. Why I know the volumes are somewhat tricky to find for Shaman King, but like I can not always find a complete series of Ultimate Muscle. Sometimes.
Right.
Like I don't really see Ultimate Muscle out in the wild. I see a volume here or there occasionally, but which means obviously it's probably a little rare, or I'm just in the wrong part of the U.S. to find Ultimate Muscle.
That's true. Well,
I'm in Texas.
Throwing that out there too, I do think that some of the people that you and I know that buy and resell, that whenever you never hear them talk about it or whatever, that it's got to be a rare series, especially since that's basically their job to go out and find those rare series to actually turn around and sell them and stuff to make a profit. Yeah. So whenever there's some of those people that we know that do that or anything, or people that are just in general like that you see them, when they don't talk about it or you never see them bring it up or whatever, I feel like that's a rare series because that's going to be one that means it's going to have to be a rare series for people that want to find it. They want to turn around and be able, and if they can't find it, then obviously there's got to be some kind of big rarity to it. You know.
Okay. So. I get what you're saying, yeah. But I mean, I feel like we don't have any like real concrete. It's mostly secondhand from what we hear when it comes to the value of these backward Japanese comic books. You know, there's no real distinct like concrete evidence of what is actually worth, you know?
Right.
It's just kind of hearsay. I don't know. I mean, I think it'd be kind of hard to like do that, honestly.
Right.
Because we don't have, you know, we don't have the manga pricing guide or anything like that. But you know, I don't know. I feel
not yet.
But I do feel like we had a really good conversation today.
Right. Stay tuned for one of our future episodes where
I mean, maybe if anybody wants to come on and talk about this subject again, and who maybe has a little bit more info than I or say you do. Because I mean, I'm not really in the manga resale game for money.
Right.
I mean, so I don't really know what the value of anything necessarily is. I'm just going off of eBay prices when I'm pricing things or when I'm trying to sell things, you know. And
Yeah.
I usually lower my price from what it actually is going for online. Usually,
Right.
I usually I lower it like maybe like $10 to $15, you know, because I want to get it sold, you know. But that's just me. But I feel like we've had a good conversation. Do you have anything else to say about this before we wrap up?
Yes.
Okay.
Stay tuned for a future episode where Jen and Mike will finally grade manga, because that'll probably be the day that the world also catches on fire.
If we start grading manga,
oh, you know how many people would be pissed at us about that if we set the standard for resale and stuff.
My deluxe edition of Hellsing is a 9.8 A++.
Right? Oh man. Or like you even making a price guide for stuff like that.
Oh God.
What do you think people would
I wonder if somebody's tried to do that.
That's true. I would love to know that too. Because
that'd be interesting.
Especially, but I mean, just because it's you though, and you know somehow drama is just tied to you in whatever kind of fucking way. I feel like if you were to do that, you'd be like the most hated guy on the internet.
Well, let's just
revolving around manga.
Let's just get real for a second. Most of or a majority of MangaTube could give a shit about me and my views and opinions on stuff. I like to shoot my mouth off and say crazy shit.
Think about it. If they had to kneel down to you because you set prices of manga on resale value,
I don't know if I would want
about that.
I don't know if I want to fucking do that. Shit. I like to keep my head down nowadays and just.
I mean, honestly, at that point, I feel like if you were hated, you just brush it off and be like, you know, what's the song? Look at me now. That's what your thing song would be.
I am hated by people, but we're not going to get into that.
Goodness.
God. Okay. Yeah. I feel like we had a really good conversation, and we stayed mostly on topic. I would say, right? Yes. No. Maybe so.
Right. Maybe.
Right. Maybe. I don't know.
Kind of. Hopefully, let us know. Comment down below.
But I think next podcast we might do a movie review, or we might talk about some more manga. I know you haven't gotten all of Raw Hero yet, but I think it's going to be like 6 or 7 volumes.
Yeah.
I think we should do volume 2 and continue going on for that. I would love to finish that one up.
Right.
So it's going to be a short series, and we can cover all of it for each episode. And we might pick and choose in volume 1 here or there for more manga that we both have, because that's the part. And I would love to. I really want to read Umbrella Academy again and talk about that.
Yeah.
But you got to finish. You got to read volume 1. But yeah, I think we'll try and figure out more discussional topics that we can have. Let's shoot for a movie review next time.
Yeah.
Let's do a movie review.
And you know what? Everybody listening, as always, out there, God bless everyone.
And
see you next Tuesday.
No, wait. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We do now have a YouTube channel, Otakuology Podcast. You can go listen to our episodes on there. We're just putting the main podcast onto the YouTube channel. We're not putting our bonus podcasts up there, because honestly, it's kind of a lot of work, and I don't have the time always to put them up there. But
yeah, stay tuned for our bonus podcast, because I like those.
I do too.
Those are kind of fun.
Yeah. Have you been listening to mine? Because I've been listening to yours.
No. I mean, some of them. I think the last one I listened to was your Invincible Are you up to 4 or 5?
I'm up to 5.
I think it was 5.
Okay. What
I
happened?
listened to 5.
Do you know what happened in issue 5?
Don't ask me that.
Okay.
I just know I listened to it, and there were a couple parts where I thought it was cool, and then because I haven't read it, so it just doesn't stick with me yet. It just doesn't stick with me. So,
yeah, there's that. So we're on YouTube. That's not going to be our main focus. Our main focus is going to be the audio podcast. That's just up there for if anybody who wants to listen to it and doesn't want to download our podcast. But please download our podcast and subscribe on all podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and many more. And if you want to leave us a suggestion or comments, you can check us out on Instagram on Otakuology Podcast, as well as email us at otakuologypodcast@gmail.com. All one word. Go check us out and plug and shout out. Go check out Chia, our interview with Chia B. Or Shy. Did I say it right? Chia B?
Shy B.
Shy B. She's an amazing artist. I just bought a print from her. I don't know if you saw that picture on Instagram that I put up.
I did.
I put a really nice. I got to get a frame for that.
I thought it was kick-ass. I'm gonna have to buy one.
I'm gonna get a frame and put it on my wall of art that I have up next to my bookshelves.
Yeah.
And make sure to go check out our other interviews that we've done with Trains, Planes, and Comic Books. Matt and John, go check those guys out as well. Those guys are awesome and amazing.
And the Weeb Daddy.
And the Weeb Daddy at Meet the Weeb Family. Go check him out.
Stay tuned for more lovely interviews that we will have for you.
I just got to plug
for people all across the industry.
I just got to plug our friends from our friends of the podcast because I feel like I got to do it, and I enjoy their content, and I just want to plug them and get them out to other people.
Yeah, I'd like to plug Otaku Mike because that guy's pretty swell.
You can go check.
I haven't talked to him since like episode 2 of the podcast.
You could go check out Otaku Mike at his YouTube channel. But don't check out Jen Graves because Jen Graves doesn't do YouTube anymore, but he does Instagram.
Oh yeah, Instagram and TikTok. We do have a TikTok. I don't know if you want to go to it, but we do have a TikTok. We don't update it regularly. Let me just tell you.
But we're there.
It's pretty shitty humor.
It's pretty shitty humor, yes.
So if you like shitty humor and dad jokes and dad bods and beards.
Oh, yes. Anyways, when are we going to see everybody next time?
We're going to see everybody next freaking Tuesday. Well, I guess that ruins the joke. We're just going to see you next Tuesday. We're not freaking at all here, okay? Wink.
Maybe. Who knows?
Wink. Who knows?
All right. Stay safe.
Bye.
Goodbye.